Bagong Bayani. In order to further understand the context of Bagong Bayani, we first must dwell with the root of labor exports from the Philippines. We can divide the context of how labor exports started and its connection to the honing of Bagong Bayani in three divisions: historical, religion, and cultural. First we have is historical. Back then, when the country was occupied by the Spaniards, Filipinos worked as crewmates in ships. Unfortunately, due to inhumane treatment, Filipino crew members then escaped the ships by jumping out. Eventually, those Filipinos who escaped from ships had to acquire jobs in various overseas countries, like the United States and Mexico, making them the first migrant laborers. A term that was given to them was Manilamen. Second, we have is religion. Through the introduction of Christianity to the country, Filipinos acquired the value of heroism by sacrifice through Jesus Christ. This embeds the idea that heroes would always sacrifice for the greater good. And lastly, we have cultural. Due to the embedding of the idea of heroes and sacrifice, it was inevitably linked to the national hero Jose Rizal. Due to him sacrificing his life for the country, this supported the mentality that heroes are willing to succumb to hardships and leave their life behind for the country's sake. Now, what are the reasons for the different waves of labor exports from the Philippines? Labor exports became prominent due to critical economic depletion after the Marcos regime. In addition, due to globalization, the global need for laborers fluctuated, making opportunities in overseas countries easily grasped by Filipinos. Now let's move on to the modern context of Bagong Bayani. During the term of former President Corazon Aquino, she had a trip to Hong Kong in 1988. There, she had an audience consisting of OFWs. She then stated, "Kayo ang mga bagong bayani," solidifying the connection of the term with migrant and overseas Filipino workers. At first glance, this could be seen as an heroic praise to overseas laborers. However, being there are two sides in a coin, the statement also served as a solidification of the term that tolerates and empowers the idea that Filipinos should and will always be willing to sacrifice and leave their lives behind in order to be heroes. Another issue that this hides is that the statement solidifies that Filipinos are obedient and are instinctively natural followers in the context of being a worker. Lastly, the statement supports the idea that stable and affluent income can be found overseas.
The term Bagong Bayani has romanticized the suffering of the overseas Filipino workers far too much. And it has reached a very concerning degree in which it makes natural the abuse, the mistreatment, and the violence as a part of the job. Thus, it gives a new meaning to going abroad as being a risk in order to have greener pastures, rather than being an opportunity to better their own lives along with their families. It also blinds us to see the problems in our own government and our country in extension, where people are being forced to seek jobs on foreign lands due to the lack of opportunities in our own lands. It is also important to note that OFWs are termed as economic heroes due to the fact that remittances sent by OFWs account to 11% of the total GDP of the country back in 2018. However, cases of maltreatment of OFWs are still rampant today. According to the Inquirer, there is nearly 5,000 recorded cases of maltreatment of OFWs in 2020, 4,302 of which is from the Middle East. Thus, we are presented with a dilemma, where working abroad is encouraged by the state to maximize remittances, while the state itself fails to protect its own migrants from the abuse that they experience. It is also here that we can see just how fickle the Philippine Development Plan is when it comes to protecting the rights of the workers overseas, especially in countries that have repressive policies such as the Middle East. This is why the term Bagong Bayani becomes counterproductive to the sustainable development goals that the Philippines wants to achieve. In summary, the events that happened during the Marcos to Aquino regime, as well the historical and religious context of our country when it comes to sacrifice and adversities, has affected the heroic discourse, where it was further utilized by the former President Cory Aquino by calling OFWs as mga bagong bayani due to the fact that labor exports was necessary in order to recover the economy that was left in shambles by the previous Marcos administration. This, however, covered the eyes of many Filipinos, normalizing the violation of human rights as a part of the experience of OFWs. That is all for today. Again, this is Lovely Jared Ignacio, along with group members Benedict Gomez and Amir Hossam El Zolfi. Thank you for listening. References are available down the description box below.